Yeah, it's really, really shocking, this. Basically now they have put in this system whereby pre-sentencing reports, which basically automatically take into account your race, your gender, your circumstance, all of that to mitigate the sentences that you might get for whatever crime you're alleged to have committed and been brought before the courts and convicted of. That now means essentially that white Britons are going to get the worst treatment when it comes to sentencing.
The UK has long been proud of its status as a symbol of liberty and justice. But recent events indicate a change for the worse. J.D. Vance, an outspoken critic of modern political trends, has raised issues that the UK is going in the wrong direction. He's not alone. Many in the UK feel the same way. Perhaps most apparent is that in the legal system, most notably with sentencing guidelines, these now consider race, gender, and background in deciding punishments. This has set off heated argument. Some see it as moving toward rectifying past imbalances. Others claim it undermines fairness. It isn't the first that Vance warned that the direction the UK was going. Before now, the country's open borders policy was decried by him as a focus ignored by others concerned that the issue of national security is taking the backseat. Justice currently now being modeled based on identity politics is also a big focus now.
Is the two-tier justice system. This is why they call Kier Starmer two-tier Kier. And I'll tell you something, guys, but the other point...
Even Kier Starmer recognises what a catastrophe this is.
Yeah.
Disappointed in this response, and the Lord Chancellor is obviously continuing to engage on this, and we're considering our response. And all options are on the table, but I am disappointed at this outcome, and now we'll have to consider what we do as a result.
Oh, I don't know, if only there was a Prime Minister who cared about the issue could do something. You're the Prime Minister, Kier. I mean, he's acting like he's just some dude off the street who's a little bit aggrieved.
Let's now consider where Labour leader Kier Starmer is in all of this. The UK's new sentencing strategy has caused a lot of controversy. In the new system, race, gender, and personal background are taken into account before the sentence is determined. Although the goal is to rectify past injustices, it's opened up huge questions about being fair. For example, members of minority groups could get lighter penalties, while white Brits can face harsher sentences for identical crimes. All this has engendered worry that justice no longer remains even-handed. Rather than treating everybody equally under law, the current system now tends to balance identity, giving us what most interpret as a dual system of justice. Critics, such as J.D. Vance, contend that it undermines the principle of equal treatment itself. The law, they argue, needs to be decided on the basis of actions, and not on what someone is. It is a very worrisome trend, and several are now beginning to wonder whether justice in the UK is now really fair anymore or losing sight of its foundations.
It's ridiculous. But James, the reality is what they have literally done is brought in laws whereby if you are any of those identity politics groups, women, gays, of ethnic whatever origin, anything other than a white man must be treated more leniently. So by definition, white men will be treated harsher under the British legal system.
And we'll just be really frank about what we're talking about here. We're talking about, basically people of color, people of different religions getting a lighter sentence and a lighter treatment. And so this means, a lot of migrants who might commit crime, they're going to get a lighter treatment than somebody who is a Briton committing the same crime. That's shocking. Kier Starmer, I don't trust anything he has said there about claiming that he's distressed about that, because, this is the same guy who saw his opinion numbers absolutely plummet and then started talking about, maybe we have to do something about immigration. Really, Kier? Really? Okay, fine. Now you tell us.
Kier Starmer recently asserted that free speech is thriving in the UK. But J.D. Vance was quick to dispute that assertion, maintaining that the situation is actually quite the reverse. Vance made the observation that freedom of speech in the UK is becoming ever more at risk, particularly in relation to legislation regarding hate speech. While there is a favorable story to tell from Starmer, Vance submits that these bills are usually exploited to stifle dissenting voices and curtail open debate. In his view, Starmer is either oblivious to these increasing constraints or is consciously turning a blind eye to them for political gain. The widening of hate speech laws has muddled the distinction between offensive language and opinion, and it is now simpler for authorities to prosecute people for holding certain opinions. Vance's denunciation highlights an unsettling drift in the UK's legal culture, one that appears to be moving away from the very essence of free expression. Starmer's reluctance to confront these fears only serves to fuel the mounting pressure felt by many.
The thing, too, the other week there was that phenomenal speech that J.D. Vance gave at the European Union where he called out Britain, and he called out Europe, but he called out Britain in particular and said that Britain, which was a bastion of liberty, has no longer become that, and they are straying very far away from that. And the real point is that if America is going to go and defend liberal democracies, and you want to be defended, you've got to act like a liberal democracy. And Britain has strayed so far from the centuries. It took centuries for Britain to develop the traditions of law and liberty that we enjoy as well. And now they're torching them at a rate of knots.
The UK used to be a proud symbol of liberty and justice. Today, however, many feel those values are being eroded. J.D. Vance warns that Britain is moving away from its fundamental principles. One major issue is the justice system. New sentencing rules take into account an individual's race, gender, or background. Supporters argue that this redresses past injustices, while critics say it violates the principle of equal treatment. Some worry that white Britons might receive harsher punishments under these guidelines. Free speech is under attack as well. Starmer insists it remains intact, but Vance believes hate speech legislation is being used as a tool to silence opposition. Critics warn that conflating harmful speech with unpopular opinions endangers democracy itself. Justice must be blind, concerned with actions, not identity. Yet today, individuals are treated differently based on who they are rather than what they have done. This undermines confidence in the system and fuels division. Consider Adam Smith Connor, a veteran who was prosecuted for silently praying outside an abortion clinic. He wasn't obstructing or speaking, just standing in silence. Yet he faced legal charges and hefty fines. In Scotland, silent prayer at home near exclusion zones is even criminalized, raising concerns about thought policing. The same patterns are emerging in Australia, following UK policies. Free speech restrictions and identity-based legislation are spreading. Vance also criticizes Starmer's flip-flopping on immigration. Initially pro-open borders, Starmer changed his stance under public pressure. Vance sees this as political opportunism rather than true leadership. Law enforcement appears selective. Protesters against immigration have been arrested simply for attending rallies, while other groups face fewer consequences. This inconsistency raises concerns about bias policing. Britain once led the way in defending democracy, but identity politics are reshaping institutions, threatening national unity and freedom. UK speech laws are already influencing tech platforms in the US, and their effects are expected to spread further. At the heart of this debate is a simple principle: justice must be equal for everyone. But that principle is now being tested. When laws favor some over others, trust in the system begins to erode. If free expression, fairness, and equality matter, now is the time to speak up. Share this message and keep the conversation going.